So I'm pretty sure everyone knows by now that the Samsung Galaxy S21 has just came out, and it's a beautiful phone for sure. But there was another phone that just came out not too long ago from Samsung, which was the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. And if you don't know what that device was, it was kind of the fan edition from Samsung, and it was a cheaper model of the Samsung Galaxy S20 at that time. And I think for sure at the end of the day, both these phones have a lot more similarities than what some people may actually think. So I'll find the cheapest ones of both of these, link them down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now on the front, they kind of have almost the same thing going on, which is very funny. The Samsung Galaxy S20 FE has a 6.5 inch 1080p Super AMOLED display, not a dynamic AMOLED, but a Super AMOLED, which is like the same thing. And I will definitely tell you, the 120Hz refresh rate on the S20 FE automatically gives it a W. I don't think it's better than the S21, but that was such a surprising thing to get at this specific price tag, especially when I compared it to a lot of other phones in this price tag as well. That was something that we weren't really getting. I mean, the OnePlus Nord came pretty close, but the Galaxy S20 FE with its very, very good panel, the hole punch display, I mean, this is some really good quality phone that you're getting from this that doesn't really scream to me that it's a budget phone, and it wasn't really going as a budget phone kind of thing, but that was a really good feature for sure. And when you're feeling it in the hand, it doesn't feel extremely bad because you already know what you're kind of getting with. Now on the Galaxy S21 on the other hand, we do have a smaller 6.2 inch dynamic AMOLED display, and it's a 1080p panel, and you also have a 120Hz refresh rate on this too. Now when you look at both of them, I would probably give the edge to the Galaxy S21, mostly because it is a smaller panel, so I feel like that one is a little bit sharper, but also you have a little bit less bezel on the S21. It's just very little to notice. It's not really a big deal, but I think when I looked at the S20 FE, when I looked at the S21, overall the Galaxy S21 was giving me better vibes, that it was a better panel for sure, but I think the S20 FE's panel was extremely close to, and there's really not a big difference. I would not go upgrade from one device to the other just because of that at all. Now they both have USB Type-C ports on the bottom, but a really big thing to keep in mind is that the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE actually does have a microSD card slot, which is a huge thing to keep in mind. The Samsung Galaxy S21 does not have a microSD card slot, so keep that in mind. I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, automatically the S20 FE is a better phone in every single dimension because of this, but that is a humongous thing to keep in mind. I cannot believe they actually removed it from the S lineup now, but the Galaxy S20 FE does have that capability, so keep that in mind for sure. Now moving on to the back of both these phones, they both have the plastic backs on them. Now I'm not a huge fan of it. I understood it kind of on the fan edition with the S20 FE because like I said before, it was the cheaper model. I am actually pretty happy that Samsung did decrease the price tag of their S lineup, but I was really hoping they wouldn't water it down, and it kind of seems like they did. Yeah, I feel like they should have just kept the plastic backs to the FE lineup or even the A series, but getting it for their more premium flagships just really rubbed me the wrong way for sure. But again, both of these things have it, so there's really not much to compare there. I think feeling in the hand, they kind of feel the same. There's not really one that feels way more premium, but I think at the end of the day, the Galaxy S21 gets the W for the way it looks because it looks a little bit better than the Galaxy S20 FE. For sure, looks a little bit more modern, but the FE with its microSD card slot really does add a little bit more character for sure, and it's cheaper now too, which is a big thing to keep in mind. So in terms of the outside, that pretty much covers it up. However, we do have their camera setups on the back, which is a very interesting thing that we have to hit on. So the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE had a 12 megapixel wide-angle lens, 8 megapixel telephoto lens, and a 12 megapixel ultra-wide sensor, where the Samsung Galaxy S21 has a 12 megapixel wide-angle lens, 64 megapixel telephoto lens, then a 12 megapixel ultra-wide sensor. Now with the Galaxy S20 FE, I'll be honest, for the price tag that I paid for this phone and for it not being the flagship, I'm actually pretty okay with this phone's quality of their camera. I think it's actually pretty good for the most part. I really was kind of shying away from their 8 megapixel telephoto lens, but it really wasn't that bad. I think it's overall a really good camera setup for sure. It's not perfect at all, but I think for the capability that it has, it's pretty good. You also have a 32 megapixel front-facing camera that can actually do 4K at 60. So again, that's kind of another huge thing that you have on this phone. And like I stated before, it wasn't a flagship phone, so we don't have to keep in the back of our head that, oh, it's a flagship phone, it has supposed to have like this and this and this. That's not really what this phone's going for, and I have a lot of respect for this device that it kind of, limited our expectations. where the S21, it has a very good sensor. The camera on the Samsung Galaxy S21 is great. They both kind of flop in the same area, to be honest, which is the apps not being super optimized for it. Things like Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. The cameras within those apps, I don't know what it is with these developers. They just want to water these camera qualities down. I think it's to save bandwidth in those apps themselves because they're playing with such huge megapixel counts. I don't know what it is, but for sure the Samsung Galaxy S21 has a better camera here. On top of that, you do have that 8K capability as well on the Samsung Galaxy S21, but they both can do 4K 60 on the front. You have a higher megapixel count on the S20 FE, but I feel like the S21 has a better front camera. But for sure, at the end of the day, the winner here is the Samsung Galaxy S21, but the Galaxy S20 FE isn't too far behind, and if you're not comparing them side by side, you're probably not going to notice that big of a difference, especially when it comes down to the software of these cameras, because it's almost the same exact thing. So in terms of the cameras, that pretty much covers it up. Now, one of the bigger differences between these phones, actually I take that back, the software isn't really as big of a difference, as I think as in terms of like the price tag, but it's still a ginormous difference because when it comes down to it, the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE just isn't going to be lasting as long as the Samsung Galaxy S21. So keep that in mind. They may only be like $100 or $200 difference in terms of the price tag, but you are going to be getting a much longer supported phone from something like the Samsung Galaxy S21 than the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. So keep that in mind. They're both running the same thing, One UI 3 for the most part. The S20 FE may still be on One UI 2, but they're pretty much going to be good for now. But the next 2 years, that's when you're going to see that the S20 FE is going to not be supported anymore, where the Samsung Galaxy S21 will still have at least another year supported. So keep that in mind. It may even be a chance where the S21 may get another version of software eventually. Not right now, but it could happen. Who knows? We don't know right now. So for sure, at the end of the day, the S21 is going to outlast the S20 FE. But on top of that, another big difference is the battery life. You're getting a bigger battery from the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE than the Samsung Galaxy S21. And this is another huge W for the S20 FE. A 4500 mAh battery there versus a 4000 mAh battery on the S21. Both have wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE has really, really good battery life and does actually outperform the Samsung Galaxy S21 from my tests and from what I've done from my past and now. That's kind of what I'm seeing. So keep that in mind. That's kind of what I saw. And I think this section, the software and the battery, are both flip-floppy. One is a huge advantage for the S21, and the other is a pretty big advantage for the S20 FE. So in terms of that pretty much covers that up. Now, performance-wise, this is another huge area where the Galaxy S20 FE is kind of not necessarily like succumbed to its performance, but it definitely is another pretty big difference. The S20 FE has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chipset inside of it, with 6 gigs of RAM on the base model and then 8 gigs of RAM on those two top tier models, where the Samsung Galaxy S21 has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 chipset with 8 gigabytes of RAM. So if you're getting the base model, the S20 FE, it has 2 gigs of RAM less than the top tier model and the base model of the S21. Now with the S20 FE, I had a really good performance from this thing. What I was expecting was that it was going to be just as smooth as the S20, but the RAM management wasn't going to be as good as it, and I didn't even notice it. I think I even did some speed comparisons between the FE and the S20. I didn't really notice that big of a difference, if I'm being completely honest, and that's pretty shocking because I try to notice these things. I do comparisons for a reason, and I really didn't get that vibe from the S20 FE. Like, it was a very, very fast phone. I don't think it was the fastest, and I don't even think it was the smoothest phone, and I will tell you, because you are kind of watching this comparison, I have to tell you, compare these two phones. The Samsung Galaxy S21 is going to be the better phone here in terms of the performance. With its first of all, with its newer chipset, that's a pretty big deal because, it's a newer chipset. It's going to be more optimized because it's a newer one. It costs more money nowadays. But also that RAM management increase, because you're getting an additional 2 gigs of RAM from the base models of both, that's a pretty big deal. But if you're getting that 8 gigabyte of RAM model on the Samsung Galaxy S21 and the S20 FE, then you're pretty much comparing apples to apples. There's not a big difference. So I don't really think it's a crazy big performance from the top models, but for the base models, you're definitely going to be seeing a pretty big improvement on the Samsung Galaxy S21 than on the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. But I would not go and upgrade from an S20 FE to the S21 just based off of the performance, because there's some downgrades there too. So that kind of leads me to end off this video and to answer the question, should you go and buy a Samsung Galaxy S21 or should you go and buy an S20 FE? Well, this is what I'll tell you. for this time right now, and this time that I'm telling you, if you're watching this video within the first year that it's out, I will probably tell you the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE would probably be the best phone for people who are trying to get the best bang for their buck. On top of that, I would probably tell you to not buy the S20 FE and just buy the standard S20, because those have gone down in price by quite a bit on Amazon, and I'll also leave that link down below. But I think the S20 FE is a beautiful phone for sure. I really don't think there's that much of a difference between both phones, and that's coming from somebody who's owned all these phones. I think the S21 wins when it comes down to probably the brand new market. If you have to go and buy a brand new phone, that's where the Samsung Galaxy S21 wins. It's going to outlast the S20 FE. You're going to be getting much better cameras on the S21. You're going to be getting, a better, performance from the S21. And overall, you're kind of getting a more flagship feeling phone from the S21 than on the S20 FE. But you're also getting a bigger phone on the S20 FE, which comes with a bigger battery. So the battery life is ultimately going to be better on the FE than on the S21. On top of that, I kind of felt like that micro SD card slot expansion, just having that capability is awesome. We do not have that on the S21, but we do have that on the S20 FE. So that's another pretty big advantage we have. So again, I don't know if one is the complete winner here, but when it comes down to it, I'd probably tell you the Galaxy S20 FE is the one I would probably recommend people to buy right now for the next year or two. But sooner than later, the S21 is going to be the no-brainer, mostly because of the software support for sure. So that really pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.